All right, so today we're still talking about the quadratic formula, but today, and we're still going to go through the same process we've always done and stuff like that. But last time we did it, all our answers worked out nice. Today they're going to all work out to be radical, right? So they're going to be nice and rad answers, right? Go back to my 90s vocab here. So, remember, guys, when we talk about quadratics and quadratic formula, the quadratic formula is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Okay, that is your quadratic formula. The quadratic form that it needs to be into in order to get to what a, b, and c are needs to be a x squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Must be equal to 0. If it's not equal to 0, you're going to get wrong numbers for a, b, or c, or whatever is on the other side. Okay, so let's go through and try some of these, and let's see how we do. So let's look at number 1 here. So very first thing we always do with quadratics is I want to go through and actually label what a, b, and c are. I know it takes like 3 seconds to figure that out and write it on your paper, but trust me, this is going to help you so much in the long run. Not make those little errors that will cause you to get it wrong. So a is always a term in front of the squared number, so that would be 7. B is always the term in front of the singular variable, so that would be negative 3. C is always the number that's just adding or subtracting at the end, which would be negative 8. Okay, so there's my A, B, and C. Now I just plug all those into my formula. So x is going to equal negative b, so negative 3, plus or minus the square root of negative 3 squared, because that's b squared, minus 4 times a, which is 7, times c, which is negative 8, all over 2 times a, which would be 2 times 7, which is 14. Okay, now let's figure out our discriminant first. So what's underneath the root? So negative 4 times 7 is negative 28 times negative 8 is positive 224, and then negative 3 squared is 9. So add 9 to that, and I get 233. So I would have 3, because those negatives will cancel out, plus or minus the square root of 233 all over 14. Now, what is the square root of 233? Well, it's not pretty. It does not factor down or break down at all. It just stays at the root of 233. So what this is telling me is that x could either equal 3 plus the square root of 233 all over 14, or it could equal 3 minus the square root of 233 all over 14. There's nothing else I can do to break that down, so I just have to write both of those as my answers. So 3 plus square root of 233, that's a 3, all over 14, or x could equal 3 minus square root of 233 all over 14. Now obviously if I wanted to like convert this to a decimal, like I could get an approximate answer, right? So I'd do 3 plus 15.26 blah blah blah, divide that by 14, or I could do 3 minus 15.26 blah blah blah. But this is technically a more accurate answer, which is what we're leaving our answers at this year. So that is my answer in radical form, and that's how I'm going to keep it. Okay, let's look at another example. So let's look at numero 2. Dos. Whatever. Number 2. So I have it equal to 0. So it's in my form already. I don't have a middle term, but that's fine because I just assume that is 0 times whatever the variable is, which means a is going to be 7 here. B would have to be 0, right? Because there's no middle term. So B would have to be 0, and C would have to be negative 12. Okay, and then I plug all those into my formula. So I'd have x is equal to negative b, so negative 0. So I'm just going to put 0, plus or minus the square root of 0 squared, which is just 0, minus 4 times a, which is 7, times b, which is negative 12, all over 2 times a, which is 14. Okay. Now, negative 4 times 7. We're going to work on our discriminant first. So negative 4 times 7 is negative 28 times negative 12 is 336. So I have plus or minus the square root of 336 over 14. Does my square root of 336 become nice? Not really. It does simplify though, right? So I can take out a 4 and it becomes 4 times square root of 21. So plus or minus 4 times square root of 21 all over 14. Now the question is, can I simplify this at all? Is there any common factors here that I can simplify between these two? And there is, right? I could write this as 2 times 2. I could write this as 2 times 7. I could cancel out the 2's, and I would have plus or minus 2 times the square root of 21 all over 7. Now that's as simple as I can get it, so I just have to write that as a positive and negative answer. X could either equal positive 2 times 21 all over 7, or x could equal negative 2 times square root of 21 all over 7. And that would be my two answers. Okay? Not too tough, right? Actually, it ends up being a little less work because you're just leaving things as they are. Let's do one more. Let's do one of the bigger problems on the worksheet. So, looking at this problem, I've got to get one of these sides to 0. It doesn't matter which side I move to the other side, but I'm going to move this side over here. So let's move the 10m, so minus 10m squared to each side, and then I would minus the 21 as well. So 10m squared, that would become 10m squared. And then I still have the plus 9m, and then minus 21 has no like terms, so minus 21 equals 0. Great. Now I can find my ABC. So I would have A would have to equal 10, B would have to equal 9, C would have to equal negative 21. And then I plug those into my formula. X is going to equal negative B, so negative 9, plus or minus the square roots of b squared, so 9 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 10, times c, which is negative 21, all over 2 times a, which is 10, so 20. Okay, now let's simplify down our discriminant first. So negative 4 times 10 times negative 21 is 840, and then that's positive 840, so then 9 squared is 81, so plus 81, and I get 921. So I have negative 9 plus or minus the square root of 921 all over 20. Now, does 921 become nice when I square root it? So square root of 921 is 921. So, not nice. So I've just got to leave it as 921. Can I factor any common factors there? Nope. So basically I've just got to rewrite this as the positive and negative possibilities. So x could equal negative 9 plus the square root of 921 over 20, or x could equal negative 9 minus square root of 921 all over 20. And those would be my two answers. And that is it.